right,
sure
I'm going
it's
to
just
convene
not
the
flattering.
July 20th meeting of the Barnstable County Commissioners. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence while we think about our troops. But I think we ought to add to that some concern that I think we all have about trying to resolve some of any issues that our elected representatives in Washington are facing. Thank you. So now we have the public comment. Under our policy of public comment, we will allow 3 minutes of public comment and we will not respond. Yes, Mr. Ribnick.
Thank you. Preston Ribnick from Wellfleet, and thank you for your time this afternoon. The first thing I'd like to mention is that this is, I believe, according to my reckoning, is about the 14th consecutive week that I and other members of the public have been attending the Commissioners' meeting. And we've consistently asked for 2 items to appear on the agenda. And for whatever reason, they don't appear on the agenda. And I guess that leads me to my question. I don't understand, or fully understand, how to get items on the agenda. I thought we were supposed to be able to notify in writing Mr. Zielinski, and that he would notify the chairman, and he would circulate the request from the public to the commissioners, and there would be a kind of a group decision of whether items would appear on the agenda or not appear on the agenda. And if they were, then we could request a certain amount of time. In fact, just a week or 2 weeks ago, Erica and I did the same thing with the Assembly delegates. We got 30 minutes on the agenda. We gave us full 30 minutes, and it was a very effective opportunity. So maybe you could address that today of telling us to clarify that. Before I give you that opportunity, I have one simple question, and I'm a country boy from Texas, so I don't quite understand Mr. Doherty, especially with Mr. Zielinski in the room. On March 23rd, there was a meeting of the Cape Light Compact, which you chair that as well. And at that meeting, there was a decision to vote, I think, somewhere between 334,000, 337,000. I've seen different numbers. At that meeting, and I know you misspoke because we got a letter saying that you misspoke on a number of occasions, that saying that it was done in open session. It wasn't not done in secret, but according to the letter you received, it was actually done in executive session, that meeting, on March the 23rd. And I guess with Mr. Zielinski in the room and Mr. Doherty in the room, as the chairperson and the treasurer are involved in CLC, can you just tell me what public law the CLC operate under that enables it to have a discussion on the expenditure of public funds in executive secret session, and then in that same executive secret session, what public law enables or allows CLC to vote in secret the expenditure of such a significant amount of funds? I'm a researcher. I spent my career researching in business and a journalist before I went to my own business, and I've done a lot of reading on it, and I can't find any legislative act that enables public entities to discuss and to vote expenditures of money in executive session. So would you please clarify that? Thank you.
Mr. Bibler.
I guess a couple of similar issues. I, like Mr. Ribnick, am confused about the new agenda items and the procedure for having them considered. I was at a meeting or witnessed a meeting on video, I don't remember which, where, I think I was there, where the chairman, the question was put to the chairman by one of his colleagues, one of the commissioners, or one of the members of the audience, what would happen if the 2 other commissioners wanted to put something on the agenda and the chairman opposed the idea, and the answer that came back was that the chairman would accede to their wishes. So, as Preston mentions, there are numerous items that we've requested be considered on your agenda for many, many weeks. It appears, reading between the lines, that there must not be a majority of 2 out of 3 commissioners that are willing to have these items placed on the agenda, because even if Mr. Doherty did not want to put these on the agenda, the other 2 commissioners, by his reckoning, have the right to request that and have that done. You know, there was an editorial in the Cape Cod Times recently that quoted former Senator Robert O'Leary as saying that transparency is our most fundamental value in public government, and especially when it comes to the transfer of funds. this is and nothing I'm saying to you today is news, but Mr. Dougherty has repeatedly said that there were no secret transfers of money from the Cape Light Compact to CBEC, but by my reckoning, only $1,520,000 of transfers are actually mentioned, and not even accurately mentioned, in the minutes of the Cape Light Compact. I think only $500,000 is mentioned in the minutes of CBEC, and the Cape Cod Times has reported that over $2 million has been transferred. So if they aren't secret, they sure aren't publicly disclosed, and I don't have any way to confirm those numbers other than taking the word of the newspaper. That's a secret if it's not publicly disclosed. This is just one issue that we've been asking for some clarity on. Two other items, you have a petition in front of you with 300 signatures, over 300 signatures. Do we need to get 600 signatures or 1,000 signatures before you'll put it on your agenda? How many people does it take to convince the county commissioners that this is worthy of being placed on your agenda? And likewise, we have been promised a very long time ago that we tried to frame some of these questions as proposed resolutions, really to force the county commissioners to focus their attention closely on those issues and to have to decide whether or not they would be in favor or against as they're framed, or if they wanted to change the wording or whatever. And we were promised action on those proposed resolutions, that they would be put to a vote up or down, and that was been many, many, many weeks ago. So this has been a very long record now of inaction and unresponsiveness and kicking the can down the road and promises to act later and gather more information, but we're still trying to gather information and we're just not getting a whole lot of help. I just finally mentioned I got off the phone with the Attorney General's office today before I came down here. I filed a formal complaint about one of your executive sessions. The procedure is that I file it with you and then you send a copy to the Attorney General. They never received it. You never responded. The county commissioners didn't respond to a formal complaint about the way you conducted an executive session on May 25th. Now I know that has subsequently been rectified because I called the Attorney General and the Attorney General called here, and I think has spoken to Mr. Troy. But again, for you to have received a formal complaint copied to the Attorney General's office and to have treated that as if it's not worthy of response, I think is troublesome. Thank you.
Thank you. There's nobody else here. Wait a minute. Did you have any public comment on that?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
If that was the case, if there was a CC to the Attorney General on that, I assumed that there was already a copy given to the Attorney General, and if that was our responsibility, I was unaware of that chain, so that's good to know.
That's the way it works.
Thank you, and I apologize for that.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of previous meetings. Have you all had an opportunity to look at the minutes?
Yeah, do you have those copies there, Mark? Just got these
Just
from
a
the
summary.
Yes, I mean, I did read them.
You are right.
No, no, the minutes were in the email.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
The minutes.
Well, I think actually the minutes are in the summary of action items, so you can do them piece by piece, which we've never done, but you can do them all at once if you want.
Okay. All right. Well,
Oh,
That's usually how we do it.
all right, then let's go to the summary of action.
I'll move approval of the summary of actions.
I did have a question on Test Center 11 contract. What is that the test center that's outside of the Army of the...
I don't know, what number are you talking about, Bill?
4.
You're saying 11, and 11 is extension.
4. It's,
Number 4, establish new fund. Test center 11, that's for the alternative septic test center.
Okay.
And we're setting up a separate fund for money we're getting from, I believe, DEP.
Okay.
That's what we typically do for that.
And what is the
I don't know, the
Service
11.
Alliance? What do they do for us?
The Mass Service Alliance is the funding we get for the AmeriCorps
The
program
AmeriCorps.
every year. And we set up a separate fund every year for that, to track that fund, those
That-
money separately.
That
I don't know
fund
what
has
the
been
11
vulnerable
means.
over time. Matter of fact, I think that there was a question as to whether or not we would receive it this year, so this
It
year.
was in there, yes, and I believe they have their 24 members. I don't think it was shortened this year.
Well, is there a motion to approve?
I made a motion.
Is there a second?
Well, I just had one more question.
Sure.
On the
Wait,
extension...
excuse me, we need a second in order to discuss it.
Oh, second.
Okay.
On number 12, just extending, the only reason I ask is I know that there's been change in legislation about auditing and performing, or if that's coming
What
forward.
is the change in legislation,
Or-
auditing?
For doing energy audits and then performing the work. Hasn't something
The
gone
new
through to
legislation
change
on
that?
an energy audit is a
I'm not-
measurement of the amount
It's
of
RISE,
energy
it's a
being used.
contract with RISE.
It's the contract with
Yeah.
RISE.
But you
Yeah,
can look
so-
it up. This is to amend, which I would
Contract amount
assume,
and period.
extend the contract time and the amount. The details will be in there, and I would say it's about 2/3 to 3/5 of the way down in the pot. You found it? So it gives you the details of what they're doing. Which you might want to mention.
But isn't that, but am I right, I mean, isn't there going to be a change in the RFP process? Wasn't that discussed and pushed forward
I
that,
know RISE
Tom-
now has a location on the Cape, I can tell you that.
yes, but
But I don't know. That's, I'm not
Yeah, I have
going
to
to
talk with
that's a
Maggie
national
about that.
question,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
well, before you had firms that could answer the RFP, and they not only perform the audits, but they also were able to do the installation of those energy efficiency upgrades that were recommended in the audit. And
Oh, okay, there's a parent company of Rise Engineering that, that also has an arm of people that do, installation work, and they would come out and do that. Rise Engineering does the energy audit itself. The energy audit is the basis of getting,
Yeah, but
yeah, but I thought that, okay, and all right, so I would like to have
This
just
is-
an update, I'll speak with
But that's an
Maggie.
RFP, so
It's an
anybody
R-
can respond to that.
No, I understand, but I was wondering, is there is
The
there
background
information?
in this was, you remember, of course, when the economy tanked and all of the service professionals who were used to do work in homes and home building and all of that stuff, and didn't want to give Escape by Compact the time of day back then, all of a sudden we're interested in participating in the energy efficiency program. So there was much to do about trying to hire local and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I think that's going back is what Sheila is referring to, and I don't know the answer to whether the state was planning on amending the process
Yes.
and whether it would require you to hire, instead of just one major contractor like Rise, who then picks their own subcontractors, whether you had to do your own subcontracting for some of the work.
Right,
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, there are two pieces to it. One, there was a requirement that the state put on for the qualifications of the people that did the work.
yes, I know that.
And when, after this, after those questions were raised, I don't believe any of them hit us on it.
Okay,
Which is like a two-piece thing, because I would have expected that they would have.
Well, she'll look
I'll
at-
speak with Maggie, and it was just an off-site question.
And we can bring it back,
I'll bring it
I
back.
think it's a good question
Yeah.
to answer.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you that I'm very confident that we're doing everything that we are supposed to be doing, the
I-
way we're supposed to be doing
I'm
it.
not questioning that. I was just wondering, has there been a change? Because I know that there was
Yes,
a
I know.
movement for that change, and I was wondering, had it been, I somehow got the impression that it was it was passed somehow, however it was going through. So I'll get more detail from
Yeah.
Maggie.
Well, that'd be good. Just anecdotally, I used to run these programs at Boston Medicine, and this has always been an issue of contractors trying to figure out how they get on the list and how they do these things.
Right, so it might be good information anyway.
Okay. What about this? What is this?
Those are the septic betterment loan prepayments. Those are people who pay early. Usually it's because they're selling their house or for whatever.
Oh, yeah.
That the chairman
Yeah,
signs,
it's not
your
in
request.
place.
So we have a pending vote on the
We have a
floor.
pending vote on the floor for 17 items.
I make a motion that
But
we...
we have a
Okay.
motion and a second, we just need a
All
vote.
in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We go to that vote.
Yep.
Do you have any reports to make, Sheila?
Well, I was at the Workforce Development Board going over different papers of contracts that they awarded to schools for at-risk students, so that they made decisions on that, the executive board, and the awardees were, I think I'd rather let the mail go out first and then I'll say who they are, but the other thing is we were just talking a lot about workforce development and trends, and I think that it was just a very interesting conversation, and I think that the county can actually really help push certain agendas forward as far as making people aware of what is out there for training, and maybe ways that we could look at assisting.
I think that's a great idea, because that's one of the things that we should be doing, because we're in a down economy.
Right.
And if you have any thoughts on that we could follow through on, I'd be happy to hear them.
I certainly will. I will keep you up to date on that. And the other thing is that we approved money for the Workforce Development Office in Orleans, and that has since closed.
It has closed?
And yes, and that office and the Falmouth office had to be shut down. There was one in there. So what they are, that money is in the budget. And it was there to make access easier for people on the other ends of the Cape to be at a Workforce Development Board. Since those locations are gone, what they're doing is taking that money, but before they spend any of it, they're going to have a strategic way of having transport for people from both of those areas, so that they can get to the office. So in essence, they're assisting it's the same goal, having the office accessible, but they would like to take that money and now transfer it into being able to have transportation.
I think we need to talk about that, because I talked to them about going over to the RTA and getting a bus stop set up so that people could actually get from Orleans, at least,
right,
into the job center, because right now they've added a bus stop for the community center in Hyannis, and as you know, it's just a block away from the Hyannis Community Center. So I was hoping that we could just do that so that people could use an existing fixed route system to get up there. So I don't know what would they need the money for?
Well, they want to take a look at it. I mean, they asked if it was still there, because there is an outcry for people to have some sort of reliable transportation to get to these workforce development boards.
So they're formulating a plan.
So they're formulating a plan, and when that plan is complete, I will share that plan, but that is their thoughts on it.
Well, I think we have to be careful, because and I was very disappointed when that office closed.
Yes.
Because I had opened it. That when it closed, the money was allocated for the rent for that office.
Right.
Okay, so I think we have to be very careful as far as moving that money around.
I agree, and the goal is the same, to have accessibility. It's just the method may change, so that is the rationale behind thinking that way. So, and I will keep, when they have a plan formulated, I will share that with you.
Great.
Okay.
Pat, do you have anything?
No, just that tomorrow, the Cape Cod Commission is going to have a public hearing on the Ocean Management DCPC implementing regulations.
And that's at 3 o'clock?
Tomorrow afternoon, and meeting begins at 3. Yeah, just in case.
That's very important.
That's very important. That's
very important.
Since it's the culmination of
all that work.
For some time. I'll have a full report of my
journeys.
What happened this week. But there were, I know that you've been following the pesticide management issue.
Yes.
And although I wasn't able to persuade them to get rid of that resolution, I went from 3 votes to 15 votes to support it.
Explain the resolution.
Yeah, what is the resolution?
The resolution was to reduce the amount of oversight for permit granting. It's House Bill 872, and it's being pushed by what I call the heartland and in the Midwestern.
The Tea Party.
The breadbasket.
Well, it was a very actually this wasn't the Tea Party, but it was by the Midwestern farmers and people that with significant agricultural interest. And the concern that I have is that we've had these folks coming in for some time, wanting to have alternate strategy with regard to vegetation management, and I wouldn't want them to think that they would come in here and I would go to a national meeting and
Yes.
not stand up and speak to, to their concerns. And as I say, I did get a little, you get a little bit more support, but not enough. So, but anyway, there was some what I'd call some recognition of the issue from people that on our environmental and land use committee. So I was happy to see that at least.
And so that bill is pending before Congress now?
Before Congress, and they put that on the platform for the National Association of County Officials, that's something that they want them to pass.
Right.
In the meantime, when I came back from the legislative conference in Washington this March, I went over to Congressman Keating's office, and although he never sees me, Lance said that he would bring it to his attention.
You mean he says he won't see you, or he's not there?
Yes.
It's got a sign. It's Bill Gordy, I'm not in.
Well, the only time he ever talks to me during a photo op, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Mark is always available, though. I'm sure if we want to
Yeah.
talk to Mark, we'll get Mark.
Lance.
Or Lance, yeah.
Yes.
Either one.
Whatever his
well, I
name
have
is.
two things. The House is taking up the bottle bill today, here, the State House legislature.
Oh, you went to Keating's, I'm sorry. I do apologize. Yeah, Lance.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Lance.
I'm apologizing.
Just so you know, because we never actually took a position on it. We weren't
Right.
asked to, but we never did. And this Friday, the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce is hosting a luncheon, and the speaker is Scott Brown,
Oh, good.
in case anyone might be interested.
Yes. I inquired about that, and they said they hope it will be Scott Brown because he may get stuck in Washington with all of the
Oh, so he may
debates.
not be there.
Right.
Maybe it'll be on tape.
No.
Maybe,
pass,
yes,
yeah.
or they'll just do a live feed, so he could be there on the big screen. May I be excused for just a second? I have something I have to attend to.
We'll go on a recess for a couple of minutes.
Well, we don't have any other. We have
I just
very
wanted to,
good-
why don't I hand
Wait
this
for-
out?
Well-
Yeah, let me just hand it out, and then I will verbally go over it a little bit for you guys. Okay?
Well, there'll be,
We're back.
You're back
trust
in.
me,
All right,
Sheila,
all
there'll
right,
be your
thank
children
you.
all of your life.
I know.
So what I did this week for my county administrator's weekly report, as you know, the governor signed, it actually wasn't in the budget, but he signed the Municipal Health Insurance Reform Bill. And so I just wanted to give you kind of a little briefing on what's in this, and you can have it in case people are asking you any questions. And basically, what it does is a little of a balance between labor and management in terms of making health insurance changes. So what it would do, it makes it somewhat simpler to bargain health insurance changes with our collective bargaining agreement agents. And we have two at the county, as you know. We have the Facilities Union, we have the Registry of Deeds Union. And since we're in the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group, as is Falmouth, as are all the towns in Cape Cod, Harwich is as well, and now I believe Bourne is as well. I think might be wrong about the Bourne one, but now Harwich has joined as well. We would do things in terms of analyzing changes, and these are increases in co-pays or deductibles, those types of things, on a kind of collective basis. But each of the units would have to go through the process that I've outlined here in order to implement the change. And so I'll just walk through the process a little bit based on what is in the bill that passed. It requires local adoption by the appropriate public authority, and of course for county that would be you, and for town it would be the Board of Selectmen, and by a city it's usually by the mayor. Then I would suggest if you have questions, just jump in and I can try to answer them if I can. And then the municipality, the executive, puts together its plan changes and calculates the benefits or what the savings are. You have to do that. That's kind of an important step, is calculating what the savings are. You're limited to the GIC thresholds. That is to say, you can't do things that are going to cost more than what's in the GIC. That they're kind of holding that up as a model. And just to mention it, contribution ratios for retirees, and that is how the premium is split. For the county, it's 75% is paid by the employer, 25% is paid by the employee, and that's both for active individuals and retirees. That's frozen for a 3-year period unless you've approved it prior to July 1st of this year, 2011. So they froze the retiree contribution rate basically for 3 years.
Do you know if any of the towns on the Cape have special acts regarding retiree insurance? Special acts of the legislature or home rule
Off the top of
petitions?
my head, I do not. No.
Because usually those special acts say, notwithstanding any other general law to the contrary.
Right.
And usually when
If it said that,
if this one says notwithstanding any other general law to the contrary, I would think it might supersede special acts.
it would. Or if your
Right.
special act said that, then
And
it
this
would
one-
supersede this.
Would supersede
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Right.
It's just curious. I didn't know if many towns had them or not.
I don't know. Off the top of my head, I would say no, but I don't know for sure. So the first step when you have your plan changes and you know what your benefits are going to be, you have your discussion, and I put that in quotations as you notice, with your local insurance advisory committee. It's not clear exactly what discussion means, but certainly the insurance advisory committee does not have a approval role. That I think is pretty clear. So then you make notice to and negotiate with your local public employee committee. That's the PEC you've heard about.
Mm-hmm.
And the PEC is really made up of a representative from each of your unions and one representative representing your retirees who's appointed by the State, County, and Municipal Retirees Association, the Ralph White Association, basically. So then the PEC has 30 days to reach agreement with management. And if you agree on the plan changes that you've proposed, then the changes are implemented. If you don't agree, that is, if the PEC doesn't support them, you form what's called a Municipal Health Insurance Review Panel. And on that panel is basically one member of management, one member of labor from the PEC, and one neutral member who's appointed from an approved A&F, an Administration and Finance list that the two other PEC members agree upon. If you can't agree, if those two members can't agree, then the Secretary of Administration and Finance appoints that neutral member. So then this Municipal Health Insurance Review Panel has 10 days to confirm the savings number and determine a sufficient mitigation of the plan changes, the impact of the plan changes. And they can direct up to 25% of the calculated first-year savings be used for that mitigation plan. But it's only for the first year. Beyond that, there is no guarantee of any mitigation whatsoever.
So going back to number, why do you have a number? The contribution ratios for retirees.
Right.
Since they cannot be changed, I would think that any increased costs for there would not have to be included in the savings. You know, where you have to demonstrate that your savings, that your plans either are at or below the GIC costs.
Right.
So, but you might not be able to do that if you had a lot of retirees and you didn't change any of their contribution rates. It might
Right.
put you above that, and you wouldn't want the regular employee to have to pick up the tab for the retiree.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's something I
You
guess.
might have to come back after 2014, after the freeze period for retirees. And then this whole process will apply,
Yeah.
assuming they don't change it.
I guess it won't matter if all things together keep you at the same level or less than the GIC, but if you're over, and the reason for being over is the retirees, then I guess you'd have to make a case for that.
Right, well, you'd have to make changes on the plan that would make it more comparable to the GIC, even though the cost split would stay the same, because you can't change it for a retiree. It's going to be what it
Right,
is.
yeah,
So,
oh, okay, all right.
So the panel may reject the proposed changes if the savings are not confirmed or they don't match the GIC thresholds, but the panel's decision is binding. It's binding on all parties.
So it's in everybody's best interest to come to an agreement.
Yeah, and it does say changes may be implemented immediately after the panel's decision unless they're governed by a collective bargaining agreement. If they're governed by a collective bargaining agreement, then the changes do not get implemented until the CBA's initial term expiration. So if you're in a collective bargaining agreement when that expires, that's when you can make those changes. That obviously was a compromise. The Secretary of A&F is going to promulgate rules and regulations that govern this process. And another provision of the law makes Medicare mandatory for all eligible
Yeah,
state,
there are quite a few towns on the Cape that are not.
Section 18.
Yeah, that have not adopted that.
Exactly. As you know, we had adopted that long ago, so we've always been a so-called Section 18
So they're gonna
entity. So anybody who
Some
works
towns-
here, once they become eligible to join Medicare, and some will not, now everybody will because of the change in the law in '84. Everybody will be eventually now, but some will not, but some of the older employees may not be eligible.
You know, I know some towns who comply with that, and all the retirees have to go to Medicare, but they never adopted 18.
Right, well then it became somewhat of an issue. I know the county had adopted it, Sandwich adopted it a long, long time ago. Some have adopted it, but it became somewhat of an issue.
The savings really are significant.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The way it works is, if you're a retiree and Medicare pays for your without medical, whatever it was, and then usually 20% of that is you have other insurance. You have a supplemental plan, whether it's with Blue Cross or the AARP or whatever. You have a supplemental plan, and then the supplemental plan picks up that. But some people who are not in Medicare, the Blue Cross would pay a certain amount, and then the 20%, depending on how it's set up, the town has to cough up the 20% in many cases. So it's a huge cost to the town to pay that 20% that Medicare doesn't pay.
Right.
So believe me, it's
Also,
in the
it helps with the gas.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really advantageous to have everyone in Medicare.
Yep. Just to mention, the county, as a member of the Joint Purchasing Group, Cape Cod Municipal Health Group, will be working through this group to identify potential cost savings. There was a provision that was included in the law. Purchasing groups are clearly allowed to establish a common plan design, but as I mentioned, each of the members have to go through this process to implement plan design changes. So you could end up with a hodgepodge where some do, some don't, some have more mitigation, some have less mitigation for whatever reason. And Cape Cod Municipal Health Group has indicated that they'll begin the discussion on potential plan design changes at their steering committee meeting in August, and I think their goal is to try to bring something back to their full board meeting, which is in October. So that's when we'll probably get more information.
Okay, so just so I understand what the impact on present employees, this is still in process.
Yep.
These are discussion points and negotiation continues. And I won't ask you to speculate on where this will all end up.
Yeah, that's good because I wouldn't at this point.
Now, with the rate saver plans that we have, they would help to make the county
more cost effective. Oh yeah.
Meet these goals.
Oh yeah. Of course.
Meet those GIC.
And we had a pretty good. I
costs.
haven't gotten the latest statistics for after the last open enrollment, which took place in April, May. So I don't know how many more people joined the rate saver, but we had over 35 people, I think, join rate saver the first year, so that was good.
So we have the plans
We saved
in
quite a
place.
bit of money.
Yeah,
They
we
saved
have
quite a bit of money,
plans in
and we
place.
saved quite a bit.
So
Yeah,
we
we
don't have
have
to
it in
create
place.
anything
No.
in order to comply. The plans are already there.
Yeah.
But part of the rate savers, you have to pay attention and document and collect your receipts and so forth.
Yeah, it's more as it's intended to be is you have to be a consumer rather than a passive,
And but I will say that Barbara takes care of all of that. And I will say that.
Thank goodness.
That they are very
It's
good
not
about
women's
paying.
work,
Well, I have the great good fortune of
Depends on-
having somebody that
Yes,
knows
you
what they're
do.
doing.
You're very lucky.
Yes, I am. And they're very good about paying off,
Yeah.
it's within a very short period of time. Once you put some of the documentation and it shows up. So they're doing their part.
Well, we were doing our part too, as you know. We did promised to cover for people who join the rate saver, people's deductible up to their deductible amount, which varies depending on whether you're in a family plan or an individual plan. And then we put an additional set of money aside so that if people went over their deductibles, there was a kind of a reimbursement, proportional reimbursement process out there. I can tell you that last year we didn't touch that supplemental amount of money at all because people didn't go over their deductible amount. The good news is we put that aside again for this year.
I always get concerned about the impact on, you know, and it's very expensive to have it. It's the impact on the people that, you know, that need to use it.
So that's all I have. And I just wanted to remind you I am out of the office next week. So.
And so are we, we're not meeting
Yeah,
next week.
We're
Right.
meeting next week. And
We're on vacation.
Yeah, so our next meeting will be August 3rd.
It's 10 o'clock. What's the start time for that?
This is for August.
And that was going to be former Senator O'Leary and former Senator Rauschenbach, and they were going to come and
Tell us.
talk about the, I think the idea was to bring you back the list of potential candidates for the membership on the special commission.
Right. That's
Mr.
good.
Chairman, I need to
Yes.
be at
Yeah,
the
we're just
assembly.
fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
So
okay,
we're
we're
done.
done.
I make a motion that we adjourn to
Recess.
recess.
To the assembly.
No, we're not.
No, we
we're
have
not
to,
doing
we're
that
not doing
anymore?
that. No, we are adjourning.
We'll adjourn, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
Good.